So this is very annoying. The painting that I'm going to be working on in this video was supposed to be filmed in its entirety from beginning to end, but like the tit that I am, I forgot to press record for the first part, but I still think it's worth showing what I'm going to show you today. The stuff that you've missed is the very basics, and actually the focal point of the painting I've yet to do. But anyway, my apologies. I hope you enjoy what there is, and we shall talk in a minute. Well, if you hadn't already worked it out, ta-da! This is what we're going to be working on. As you can see, it's going to be a set of keys that look something like this. I wanted to do something a little bit different. Push the boundaries, test myself a little bit, test the techniques. So I decided to do something that was going to be a little bit different. After something that's going to be very 3D. Something that sits on a wall and from a distance looks like a set of keys. Anyway, so what I did yesterday, the bit that I failed to record, was working just on the background and the shadow. Now, as you can see, the actual keys themselves have a grey wash. Now, my main reason for doing that, I actually gave a wash over the whole panel, and that was just because it's a very smooth panel, and I just wanted to give it a little bit of tooth so that the paint, the oil paint, would sit well on top. Because I only wanted to do this really in one layer rather than a very complicated block in. I've just gone for this wash. So that's what you can see here. Really, we're looking at maybe 2 hours worth of work just to fill the background in. The important thing is that the sketch is done accurately, and I don't know whether you can see in the video, but there is the sketch underneath. Okay, so basically what I'm going to be doing now is working on, starting at the top, working my way in this direction. This is all wet paint, so I need to make sure I don't lean on that, and I'll be using my handmade, made at home maul stick to lean on. Well, you don't want to hear me rabbiting on, so let's actually start working on this. I'm going to be using a series of brushes. Now, because of the small details that we can see in this, I'm going to be using, I think, my Series 2s, and we have the smallest of the Series 2s is the 2.0. Actually, I'm not sure that is the smallest, thinking about it. Hold on a second, let me check. Yeah, so actually, this is the 3.0. So that's the smallest Series 2 that we do. So we're going to be using that, certainly. And I'm going to be using one of the superfine rigger brushes. This is the rigger brush is the Series 1. This is the size 10.0. So that's going to allow us to get all of the details that we need. And also, I probably will be using a mixture of the slightly larger one, the 2.0, and maybe even the size 1, just for any larger areas. Okay, so let's start working on this then, starting at the top and working our way down. So I'm going to look at averages with this. So for example, hopefully this is in focus, but we see here, which is like a very light grey ring, isn't it? There's details on there, there's little nicks in the metal, which we'll put in place, but I'm going to get that basic colour in first of all, then add the details to that. So off we go. So this is going to be the general sort of way we're going to work, and that is to kind of get the larger flat areas in place before we then add those subtle details. Okay, so that is that ring in place. Now the keys are hanging on a little brass nail, so I'm going to do that next. Back to the smaller brush again. So actually, the key ring itself is probably the most difficult bit, just because the shape has to be correct. But I'm going to start now moving on to the keys. We have this nice little brass key coming out of the side here. So let's put that in place. If you're enjoying this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It might seem like a small thing, but subscribing really helps the channel grow and lets me keep making more free painting lessons for you. Your support makes a huge difference, and I truly appreciate every one of you that takes the time to subscribe. If you click the bell icon, you'll be the first to know when a new video goes live. So thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the painting. So one of the most, I guess, important things in painting realism on a small scale like this is to be really steady with your hand. Most of the time I find myself holding my breath. But it's so satisfying, and I do encourage you to give this a try, this picture. But you couldn't really do this without having something to rest your hand on, and if your painting is wet, then you're going to need something like I'm using here, which, to be honest, you don't need to buy. You can just make one yourself. This was just a piece of doweling from a, as we say in the UK, a DIY store, or a hardware store, I guess, if you're from America. And then on the end is just some material wound round the end of the stick, just to keep it away from the, let's show you, just to keep it away from the panel at the top, or if you have a larger painting, keep it away from that. But you can then rest your hand against your painting without worrying about disturbing the paint underneath. But yeah, it is a time-consuming process, but once again, hugely satisfying, or I find it hugely satisfying. There's also, sort of, in a way, limited sort of brush techniques when painting like this, because it's in a way it's a little bit like just you're colouring. You're not, there's no complicated way of applying the paint particularly, and in that sense it's sort of relatively easy. Yeah, the hardest bit, as I say, is maintaining a steady hand. If you can do that, you can do this. There's also quite subtle colour changes throughout the whole painting. So this little bit here is a reflection of this key to the left. Interestingly, I mean, I know it's metal. We have some of these keys are brass, and some are obviously steel, stainless steel, something like that. But they're old. They are actually my office keys, and they're old, and there's like loads of little dents on there. So actually, in some ways, that makes it a little bit easier, because you don't then need really smooth surfaces. It's, you can like we did here, looking for some small little dents. Yeah, painting smooth is the tricky bit. So this key here has some writing on it. Let me just quickly show you. Photograph's a lot bigger than the reference photograph, but Yale we have written on there. So I'm going to do that. I wasn't actually going to put that in, but I've decided that I'm going to give it a try. If it doesn't work out, I don't like it, I can always paint over it. But I'm going to do that now, and I'm just going to do an outline of the writing first of all. I'm just going to kind of almost block it out to begin with. So just down that angle. I think it goes maybe up to about that point there. Right, so I'm going to just outline the writing, but with a light, not too dark to begin with. This is the Series 1 size 10-0. This is the smallest, the skinniest size Series 1 that we have, and for this sort of thing it's absolutely perfect. In fact, you almost can't do it without, but it just gives you such a fine line. It's absolutely brilliant. So for those of you interested, it's the Series 1. So all of this is going to be perfected. Okay, so literally just put in the slightest of details. Now we need to be slightly more precise. Okay, so just a little detail there. What I'm going to do now is continue working on this key here. So there we go, that's first part finished. Second part is coming in a week or so. Please subscribe so that you don't miss out on the next episode where I'll finish this painting. Also, why don't you give it a thumbs up, click the bell icon, and please comment actually, because I love to read all your comments. I reply to all of your comments in the most up-to-date videos. So if you've got any questions, anything you want to ask me about painting or about anything actually, please feel free to do so. Anyway, I enjoyed that. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care everybody, happy painting.